his office in Hong Kong. Dr. Hansen is also the creator of the popular social robot, Sophia. This corporate governance conference in 2020 engages in a dialogue that aims to break the unconscious bias between emerging technology companies and disruptors and the practice of corporate governance. And it also aims to promote stakeholder approach toward long-term value creation among companies that can thrive in the various aspects of the fourth industrial revolution. Here to give you more insight on this event of ours is the chairman of our committee, Ms. Cora Guidote.
Good morning, everyone. It's a great morning. You know, Tisoy didn't destroy our city, so we have a lot to be thankful for. So today, we're very glad to introduce to you the topic of our annual corporate governance conference on March 26. Before that, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of our board members of the ICD, Mr. Rex Rilon and Mr. Frank Newman, and of course, the president of ICD, Dr. Fred Pascual. And with me in the committee, I have co-chairs, Attorney Tom Siquia. He is in charge of content and agenda. Amor Maclang, is Amor here already? Okay, so she's in charge of public engagement, and Miss Taimee Cruz, who's in charge of logistics. So we have a great team who's working, very hard to put up a great conference. And this conference, as Nandi has said, is about traffic. It's not the daily grind that you're so angry about. Maybe some of you are even raging about traffic. But traffic to us has a different meaning, okay? When we were thinking about the concept of this conference, we spoke with some technology companies, and a lot of them are allergic to the word governance. They think governance is regulation, they think governance is kind of boring, they think governance is going to slow down their growth. But actually, governance, intimidating as it might be, it's all about inclusivity, and it creates long-term value and growth for every company. So if they're able to cross that unbiased, unconscious bias in their minds about governance, it can actually help their companies be more sustainable. I'd also like to welcome another member of our board, Ms. Taimee Cruz. On the other hand, traffic provides these technology companies, given all the bottlenecks and the problems of technology, it actually has a wide-ranging impact in our consciousness. It evokes a lot of emotions, and this is the reality we face. But at the same time, it provides solutions. It gives the tech companies a venue for creating solutions for our country. And that's why we are going to discuss governance in the fourth industrial revolution, because things are moving so fast. Technology never sleeps. While we sleep, things are still moving. Okay, and lo and behold, we have new players in the business, and we're not even sure how aware most of them are in terms of governance, although some of them are actually conduits of governance. Okay. So, as I said, this is our topic, and we have a partner in Angkas. Okay, so thank you very much to Angeline and George for being with us in this project. And as you know, Angkas is very tech-based. I'll give Angeline later on the time to discuss what Angkas is all about. But I'm sure you've seen all these motorcycles wearing the Angkas uniform and helmet. And you have seen how fast it has grown over the last few months. You now have over 20,000 riders, right? Yeah. Oh, 27,000, okay. See, that's how fast it was. Like 2 months ago, or 3 weeks ago, we were just talking about 22,000. So 27,000 riders all over the metropolis. Is it just in Metro Manila, Angeline?
Sorry?
Is it just in Metro Manila?
Metro Manila
And Cebu. Okay, so it still has a lot of growth opportunities across the country, and we are glad to really partner with Angkas in this endeavor. Okay, so who will be attending our conference? We have board chairpersons and directors, CEOs, C-level executives, corporate secretaries, compliance officers. Basically, we're really catering to very senior corporate executives because we're trying to really use this as a continuing education for board directors and senior executives. Okay. So these are the objectives of the conference. Okay. So we're going to address how artificial intelligence and robotics are changing the way information impacts the board. We're looking at how IoT is enhancing the workplace environment, transparency and efficiency. We're looking at how companies embrace digital transformation, how emerging tech companies inculcate and integrate principles of traffic, how directors evolve and manage expectations of stakeholders in the era of FIRE, and what are the ethical implications of technological advancements in the business ecosystem? And why is traffic important for investors, and how traffic can help create long-term value to stakeholders? Okay. So the agenda goes like this. So in the morning it will be opened by our keynote speaker, Dr. David Hanson. Have you heard of Dr. Hanson? Perhaps not, but maybe you've seen his robot in some, in social media. Okay, he's the creator of Sophia. Sophia is a social robot who has facial expressions, and she's actually a very famous social robot. And Dr. Hanson is apart from being a roboticist, he integrates figurative arts with cognitive science and robotics engineering, inventions and novel skill materials, facial expression mechanisms, and collaborative development in AI. So he's one of the leaders in the development of artificial intelligence. And as a matter of fact, there are several robots that he has invented, like a certain Albert Einstein that's just this big, that's being sold in the market. And these robots are actually collecting information for Hanson Robotics. Everything goes into AI. Okay, so every human interface that these robots have already feed his cloud of information. So he's one of those that's really changing the technology scene, and we are happy to have him. Actually this afternoon he's going to go live in a video conference, and hopefully we can ask a few questions. Okay, and then there will be discussions about the Internet of Things, especially for smart cities. For this, we actually, there's still a few names that we're going to announce later on, some Jagger personalities that might still confirm. Okay. Case study on the digital transformation. We'll be discussing the case of Union Bank. We'll also be discussing the digital quotient, the DQ. So we've gone past the IQ and the EQ era. We're now in the DQ era, which is the digital quotient. How digitally attuned are you to this generation? What is your DQ, okay, as a digital citizen? So this one is going to be very interesting, and we have Mr. Joshua Jackman to be discussing this. He's an assistant professor in the School of Chemical Engineering at Sukkyong Kwan University, where he leads a National Nano Bioscience Group. Okay? So, hindi lang governance ang credentials ng mga speakers namin, medyo highfalutin, but it's also a great opportunity for us to learn from these experts. No? And he's been working with DQ activities for over a decade. Okay? And then, after that, we'll be breaking down traffic, the components of traffic, transparency, responsibility, accountability, and so on. Okay. And of course, we will have the Angkas journey to be discussed, where their principles. And you will have a preview of that today. Next, we will have an investor's perspective on traffic. So basically, we're already leading the discussion towards creating sustainability for businesses. And after that, we will have a fireside chat with Dr. Mark Mobius. Not sure if you've heard of Dr. Mobius. He's one of the legendary contrarian investors out there who was the biggest investor in the Philippines in the 80s. Okay, naging client ko siya. And he's the ultimate contrarian investor. At the time when there was a coup in Makati, and there were gunshots being fired at one of the buildings here, he signed a waiver at the hotel and said, I need to go home. So he signed a waiver and ran to the airport, flew back to Hong Kong. The next day he was buying Philippine stocks. So basically he represents the saying, buy when there's blood in the streets. I mean, literally, he was buying it. When the market shot up, he was oozing with shares of the Philippines, and he made so much money in this market. But apart from that, actually, he's one of the best investors in emerging markets. And he also recently launched a book about ESG, environmental, social, and governance, which is really an alternative expression of sustainability. Okay, so we will have that discussion with Dr. Mobius. And we will be inviting a person who can discuss their experience about creating sustainable businesses through traffic. And it will be capped by a session between Sophia and Angkas. Okay, so you will get to see how a robot interfaces with humans. So Sophia is more than a robot, she is a humanoid. Okay, so she converses, she tells jokes, she can sing, she can do a lot of things. And this will be like an eye-opener for many of us, because we still take for granted that technology is here to stay, and technology will take over the world. Okay. And it will take over a lot of jobs. Okay. So we just need to be aware of the risks and the trends, and this is one way by which ICD hopes to contribute to the discussion and hopefully, create a more healthy environment for companies to become more sustainable. Okay? So I think I'll skip that. Yeah, all right. So thank you very much. And we now go to the next session, which is going to be moderated by one of our co-chairs, Mr. Attorney Tom Sakia. Thank you.
Good morning to all of us. Good morning to our fellow friends from the media. Often we hear about people talking about innovations. We have to innovate to solve problems. But that's only one side of the coin. So today, as a sub-discussion of the conference, we have a panel discussion on innovation and the flip side of it, which is the risk. And to give us concrete examples of actual innovations that have been launched in the Philippines, we have invited, of course, the ubiquitous blue or tangerine and black Angkas, and the ubiquitous color orange, or is it tangerine, for UBX and Union Bank. And you will hear from them how they have actually innovated some of the challenges that we face today and have given us actual solutions to solve these challenges. If you looked at your program, I'm the Tom Sikia in the co-moderators. Unfortunately, my co-moderator, Love Maclang, must be caught up in traffic, ironically. And I suppose she should have taken Angkas to be able to make it on time today. But I think the reality is probably she's in the salon getting ready to face the media. And that's the prerogative of being a woman. You can go to the salon. The guys, we just have to wake up and dress up. May I first introduce the lady. And it's surprisingly, before she went into the motorcycle business, she worked for JP Morgan, one of the international, well-known international investment banks in the world. And she put up her own company selling something like an Alibaba, Sold SG, Sold.SG. And when it became successful, obviously what did she do? She sold the company and started up another business and joined another business. She joined Grab. So once upon a time, there was a Grab Express in the Philippines and Grab Bikes. And that's where Miss Angeline had worked. And I think seeing the opportunity when the segment of Grab had departed the Philippines, she set up Angkas in 2016. And now, as you say, you see 27,000 of them moving around Metro Manila and Cebu, helping people reach A and B, A to B, without any queue. And so far, they have been solving a major problem that has plagued the Philippines or Manila for years. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Angeline Tran. Mr. George Royeca is present at the back. But according to the Commander-in-Chief, she will do all the talking and he will do all the watching. But let me just as well say that he is a co-convener of Transport Watch, an organization that seeks to enhance the rights of commuters and those for the riding public, obviously. And he's also a co-convener of Brand Philippines, a local movement that aims to enhance local brands. Because we often have this colonial mentality that we often think that foreign brands are better. Maybe that is one of the mandate of Brands Philippines. So unfortunately, he will have to watch from the back and do a lot of clapping and supporting for Angeline. But let me introduce Henry Aguda. And if I read his resume, it will take us a whole morning. So with his permission, I'll pick a few items that I think will highlight his achievements. He's the chairman of the board of UBX Philippines. He's the Chief Technology and Operations Officer and Chief Transformation Officer of Union Bank of the Philippines. Formerly, he was the Chief Information Officer of Globe Telecoms. Former SVP, Chief Technology Officer of GSIS IT Group. Former VP of Nextel. And former Chief Information Technology Officer of Digitel. So basically all the telecom companies, he has been with them. But may I also highlight that he was a graduate of the UP Diliman. And not any course, but UP Diliman BS Mathematics. And holds a Juris of Doctor of Law from UP Law. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Henry Agudo. And last but not the least, the president of the ICD and the former president of the UP system and board member of SM Group of Companies, Mr. Fred Pascual. Any questions, the panel? If none, may I begin a few questions. We all have heard that the Angkas was given a test period for 6 months. I think after the Supreme Court had issued PRO, then you get an exemption. Could you tell us so far what have been the findings of during the test the test run of Angkas?
Hello. Okay. Thanks, Tom. So we've had the honor of being given a 6-month pilot to run in conjunction with the DOTR, and we thank them for the vision in this with Congress and Senate. And so far the findings have been positive. So, I mean, one of the things that we wanted to test was whether we're able to maintain the safety standards that we've been able to prove in our operations, right? And that is a 99.997% safety record, safer than condoms. And I'm happy to say that this is something that we've been able to maintain and also improve on a day-to-day basis. So that's one of the big findings that we've had. And we're also working together with the Department of Transportation on how we can further improve the service and make this a more long-lasting standards to maintain in the future as well. So, yeah.
Just a quick follow-up.
Sure.
What would have been the most innovative technology or process that you utilized when you launched Angkas?
The most innovative technology that we've utilized? Okay, so contrary to popular belief, technology is a tool that we use to enhance operations on the ground, right? So what we've tried to do is we use the platform and technology to transform the existing habal service that we see on the streets every day and to professionalize it, to make it safer with background checks, with the ability to track the rides, with the ability for customers to know who the bikers are, and as well use safety techniques and testing to make sure that only the best drivers are on the platform and stay on the platform. In terms of innovation in that front, I think it's how do you take a platform and technology to see how you can improve on what's currently out there in the market, right? And to me, the results have been tremendous. Right? There's still a lot of people, a lot of habals who don't want to join the platform yet. But this is something that I think with free training that we provide and with the addition in income that we're able to provide for the bikers, this is something that we are working very strongly with the government to try and train more bikers and give them the required skill sets in order to be part of the platform.
Thank you, Anjali. Any questions from the body? Table 1? Table 2? Table 3? Yes.
Curious what kind of capital investment did you have to put in? New economy, no capital.
Technology is free. We've invested capital into the system, but I'm not able to disclose that right now. But, sorry?
How about the return?
Unfortunately, we're still not making money. I mean, I know we have a lot of bikers on the streets, but the investment that it takes to make sure that we maintain the platform at the standards that we want, we're still not making money. Yeah, but yeah, I mean that's the price you pay for keeping the quality and of the platform, right? Because we fail, for example, we fail 70% of our bikers, of biker applicants, right? And that's because we believe in keeping to a certain level of safety standards.
So there's that different from Tesla, for example, and the other technology companies under well-known names, you know. Yeah, they generate a lot of revenues, but the bottom line, you know, is something that will come later. And in fact, people are investing on the prospects of the future. I think one comment I'd like to make about Angkas, I don't know, I'm just making a hypothesis, that the Angkas might be a case where, no, because when I'm on the street, you know, commuting between my home and office, I always am bothered, you know, by so many motorcycles that's just crisscrossing our path, you know. And there's no system to it, there are no rules. But I understand that Angkas, as a private sector entity, through their exercise of their own governance, might be able to provide order on the streets, you know, in a way the motorcycles on their platform will behave, you know, and follow certain protocols. Can you comment on that, Angeline?
So I think that's a really good observation, right? When we first started Angkas, everyone thought we were crazy. Because, you know, clearly on the streets we had a lot of camote drivers, right? Yes, right. And like anyone who drives a car at some point or other has secretly thought in their head, or actually said it out loud, that they want to like run these drivers over because, you know, they don't care about their lives because of the way they're riding their motorcycles on the streets. So there was a very strong stigma against motorcycle biking in the Philippines. And to be honest, with the work we've been doing with our bikers, we found that one, it really stems from a lack of training and discipline, right? So there's almost no opportunities for bikers to be able to get any form of training in order to know how to ride safely in the streets. And this is something that we hold very dear to our hearts. And this is why we're also supporting compliance and the ICD. Thank you very much for the opportunity to do this. Because we believe that compliance is the backbone of our business, right? So being able to put in the training program that we have, the protocols that we have our bikers to maintain, the level of testing that they need to pass in order to become an Angkas biker, that's very, very important to us. And I think that's also the key to why we're able to maintain the safety levels and to be able to work with the government in order to do this, right? And to us, our long-term goal really is to keep standards high, work with the government in order to have regulation, proper regulation in this space. I know a lot of times, as Tom mentioned, you know, startups or companies are afraid of regulation or the government coming in to, you know, inhibit the business. But to us, we believe, in the short term, maybe that's a challenge, and that's something we fought for the last 3 years. But we believe in the long-term goals. In the long term, we believe regulation is key for this industry, right? Because what we see right now is we have a lot of ill-disciplined bikers on the streets. And if we don't take that step to make sure that we keep safety standards and compliance high, not every player is going to be like us, right? There are going to be other players that come into the market that may not have the safety mindset or may not have the support structure to keep these standards. And that's why we are working with the government to make sure that we put the proper standards in place that everyone can follow, and to ensure the safety of all commuters on the streets, and hopefully less issues when we're driving to see that kind of behavior on the roads, right? Yeah.
Thank you, Angeline, for the
Yeah. When I heard that kind of mindset, you know, that is foremost in the mind of the leadership of Angkas, you know, and when Angkas was being proposed as a co-presenter, I said, you know, this is a very much worthy partner that we could have in our corporate governance conference. Okay. It's a startup, but already very conscious of the need to follow rules, comply with regulations, and I'm sure ethical practice is part of it. Huh?
Training the skills,
Yeah,
training
then
of
the training
of
of
the
people and the long-term perspective, in running the business. These are the things, among the things that we highlight in our training programs for good corporate governance.
If you have stepped into a bank, a union bank recently, you would be awed by the changes that you would see. And if you have used an apps, you'll also be further blown away. Because the conception is that banking is a stayed, old, traditionalist type of business. And thank you, Amor. Welcome the late Amor Maclan. Love.
Not usually.
I told you you should have taken Angkas coming here.
I know.
But I think the changes to Union Bank didn't happen overnight. And I'm sure they experienced a lot of challenges in changing a culture in the bank and the use of technology. Can we please, Henry, could you please guide us and enlighten us on what were the challenges that you faced when you had to innovate Union Bank?
Well, our future fellow in ICD, future
Thank,
fellow.
pasado na ba?
Inshallah.
Okay, thanks to Dorothy, Tom. So in Union Bank, I can't say enough about how we started with our culture. We're a bank, and as any bank who is also listed in the stock market, governance is very, very important for us. So the first thing we did was we had to make sure everything we do has to be approved by the regulators. So everything that you've seen that Union Bank has done, from the app to the branch that we've launched where there are no papers, there are video games that you can play, where we sell cars to this Christmas right now, so you'll have special deals with Toys R Us. They're all approved by the regulators, because that's one of the things that we said is part of our culture. Part of our culture is integrity. We're a bank, we have to be honest in terms of complying with the laws. Then we proceeded to address how do we do the transformation, and we have a simple actually progression. We call it EX, CX, then FX. So EX is our employee engagement, where we started first by talking to our employees and showing that the leaders also can change. So we had I always put up this famous picture of my chairman learning how to program in C in one day, and he did. He doesn't code right now, but it's not to make him a coder or my CEO or my executives, but for them to appreciate what the technology is and be familiar with it. Then we learned a lot from a lot of speakers, like what ICD is going to try and do, bring Dr. Hansen to discuss about AI. I think that's the first good step. Then we proceeded by teaching our employees technology and warming up to the notion that, hey, your jobs are secure, even if we proceed into a technology transformation. So we've created a safe space. Once our employees have been engaged and they're all agile in mindset, because the key to any innovation is not so much the novelty of the idea, it's our ability to execute. So 1,001 intentions normally fail at execution. So that's why we capitalize on our people's ability to be agile. And that's our culture. Then we proceeded with customer engagement. And that's where we got a lot of the excitement in the marketplace, because if your employees are engaged and they're happy, then you can now engage and make your customers happy. So we launched all our digital products, guided by the notion that they have to have the aspects of being self-service, always available, anywhere, anytime. I mean, you've heard the promise of anywhere, anytime, but we have to be true to that. So we take pains in trying to test our systems, making sure that they do work. And we also place the customer in the center. So everything that we build, as an example, we've asked customers, what is it that you hate about bank branches? Like most of you, they hate lines. They hate signing over and over again documents that they've signed in the past. They hate repeating themselves because they've already given your personal information, and to take out another transaction, you have to repeat the information again. Then we said, okay, and then there's that. And we also asked them, what is it that you like in a bank branch? Well, it took them a long pause, but then, okay, what do you wish you could experience in bank branch? One, you want free coffee. We gave free coffee, great coffee in fact. Want to experience technology. Okay, we gave them the AR, VR. Third, we want to have an experience where we just sit down and we get served. And we have that in our branches. We have 40 of them right now. We call them the ARC. And we change the way we service our customers based on what they've asked and what they've given us as feedback. That's the same for our app, and that's the same for all of the products that we've been creating. And thirdly, that's when we start engaging our shareholders with respect to financial engagement, which means we're now returning the value that we've generated from technology in terms of mitigating risk. We use AI for AMLO reporting as well as regulatory processes. We've been able to reduce the amount of people that are doing manual work. We have a promise with our employees, which means nobody gets left behind. Even as they automate processes, and even if it can be done by a robot, they will stay in our organization. So they spend more time right now retraining themselves. So we have tellers that used to do tellering work that are now programming in Java. We didn't have data analysts before. We now have data scientists. I think we have the biggest data scientist team in the bank. So we've been retraining them. And I wish I had a slide, but you just have to see me in one of the events, I guess. The results are this. Our revenue is 11 times higher if it's a digital customer. So that's the financial engagement. And I guess you don't take my word for it, just look at our financial performance by the end of the year. So that, all three, from employee engagement, customer engagement, to financial engagement, we've gone through them. Now we're in the innovation side of it. That's where we partner with startups like Angkas. In fact, the first time we met Angela and George was in a dinner with our chairman early of 2017, through the facilitation of Amor, before we were partly tequila and great food. It was during the time of the Bitcoin craze, and they were just starting out then. And 3 years later, we're not invested in them. I could disclose that, but we've gone into motorcycle lending. And one of our subsidiaries into motorcycle dealership, because we know the prospects of Angkas is going to be good. And same with all the other fintechs that we've engaged in. They're fast. Like some started their company like Angkas 3 years back, and now they're making headways in areas of the market that are being unserved for quite a while. Yeah, so that's roughly our journey so far.
Hi, first and foremost, good morning. I'm not usually late, but I was managing a crisis.
I need to give you a promo code.
Yes, I need to have a promo code. No, but I think the reason why I'm here is because I wear two hats, right? I want to talk about ICD and also and I also I'm wearing my hat as the Executive Director of FinTech Philippines. I joined ICD, I think it's this year, Sir Rex, right? Si Teacher Kian, si Sir Rex, etc. And many were saying, why did you join the Institute of Corporate Directors, right? Two things. Risk is now, oh, Mr. Manabat, how are you? So good to always see you, sir. Number one, taking risks is now the new normal. And I'm not just talking about from the standpoint of insuring against pure risks, against earthquakes, no, hindi yan yung conversation natin. Second, technology, I've seen that a lot of the startups that we support, they do not look at sustainability in the long run. You know, a lot of the fintechs, they're like looking at the quickest exit strategy. They're not even talking about being here in 5, 10 years. All they want to do is be bought out. And joining the ICD, I have to say, is one of the best things that I've done as someone who works in technology. Why is that? Because we need the handrails, right? I mean, later I'm gonna throw a question to Angkas. Their ongoing engagement with various stakeholders, no? To put it at the very least, has been colorful, and yet you thrive, right? And yet you thrive, and you're the market leader despite ongoing challenges. And a lot of that is because we all realize, I think, that doing the right thing and making sure that we subscribe to the principles of good governance and transparency is always implemented. So sir, sobrang kailangan yan, especially if you're in tech, especially if you're committed to doing digital transformation, which I think is the new normal, right? So this, ICD, engaging technology and bringing in Dr. Hanson and Sophia, the AI robot. I mean, I'm so excited by that. It's not actually such a great leap, because the only way we can make all of these nascent technologies profitable, yes, but sustainable in the long run is if we subscribe to principles of good governance. And it wasn't even in my purview last year, truth be told. Like, it was because one of the trustees of ICD said, Amor, you gotta be in ICD. So this is Ida. I'm always grateful to Ida Tiongson for having introduced me to ICD. I complied, and it's the best decision I've done in my young 20-year career in risk management and 5-year career in technology. So I hope more technology startups will look at ICD as a way to make sure that they will graduate from just being good and profitable to being great in the long run.
Thank you all for that. Questions to Henry? Please, Tony. Any questions?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I am a reformed banker, so I follow the finance area.
Father of one of the fathers of renewable.
Yeah. Anyway, congratulations to Union Bank, to your know-how and ethos leadership. I think you're making progress leaps and bounds. My question is, all over the world, handheld applications have been eating up the business of the bankers. You have BPay. You know, banking is about getting money and recycling it, a payment system, money transfer, etc. The advantages of the handheld application are, from what I understand, is number one, they don't have bricks and mortars. You know, bricks and mortars, branches. You can have the most modern branch there is, but you have a high overhead. Number two, they use the cloud for the program. So they don't spend on hardware, software, etc. And number three, they are not very much regulated. They can be guerrilla tacticians and go around you and run circles around you. I am curious, what is your strategy to overcome all these disadvantages and become a, because the Philippines is very much underbanked. You know, if you go everywhere, underbanked, no? But 10% only have bank accounts, no? And it's a matter of, like, if you make a telegraphic transfer, you go to a branch, fill up the form, and have maker, checker, officer approve it, etc. In a handheld application, you know, all you have to do is a QR and zoom, as fast as your mind can think. It's there. So I'm curious, what is your long-term strategy in, of course, they said that in the long term, all of us are dead. Anyway.
Thank you, sir, for that question. So, and that's very, very good. So I've been asked this a lot, and I've got time to reflect on an answer actually. So So we go by, you mentioned our chairman and his leadership. First, we focus on the prize, which is financial inclusion. Let's address financial inclusion. By addressing financial inclusion, we cannot do it on our own. Union Bank, even if we establish 5,000 to 8,000 branches, which is going to be very expensive also if we do it that way, we won't even make a dent. So our long-term strategy, and continue to be our strategy, is to partner with fintechs. That's why we're the first Philippine bank who created a fintech business group focused on really partnering with the PayPal likes of this world, Coins.ph, all of them, because the pie is so huge that putting in more players will actually not reduce the pie, but increase the pie for all of us. As you've said, we're really underbanked. And in order to address the financial inclusion problem in our generation, we need to find a way to partner with our seeming competitors. So right now, I think we have that ecosystem where if it's a wallet transaction, we partner with the fintechs. Now, there are inherent disadvantages to being a bank. Although we flipped it around, we said, let's not look at the disadvantages, let's look at the advantages we have. Is regulation a disadvantage? We argue it's not. In fact, if you are faithful to the new circulars of the BSP right now, every bank should be a digital bank. And every bank should have features that are offered by fintechs. If you look at just in the recent 3 years, they've created so many circulars that leads you to believe they want to create a virtual bank from day one. So we think regulation helps us also in the trust aspect. Because as you mentioned, the fintechs can do, or the startups can do guerrilla tactics. If you are depositing ₱1 million above, you won't give that or entrust that to somebody.
No Filipino doesn't have ₱1 million.
Okay.
That's where I'm going.
Okay. So if you have ₱1 million and above, you won't entrust that to the guerrilla tactics. You'll entrust that to somebody who's regulated. Now, for financial inclusion, the ones who live off of minimum wage. We think we won't be able to address it if we don't partner with rural banks. That's why we went straight to the regions by enabling the rural banks, because the rural banks are the ones mandated to stimulate the economy of the rural area. So we're helping them. As much as we can, we provide technical assistance as well as exposure to new technology to them. Now, on the fintech side, as a good example like Coins.ph, we partnered closely with them because we know they're trying to address an area that we couldn't address, which is disintermediating the transfer of money from overseas to the Filipinos. So, in a nutshell, partnering is our long-term strategy. And second, we don't look at the things that people usually think as challenges for banks as disadvantages. We look at them as opportunities for us and things that we can actually latch on to be able to provide our services. So that's our view. And that's a Tito Ortiz view of the world. It's more a worldview that's compelling, saying that everybody's on the same boat. We just all have to help each other.
Okay. Questions from this table, this side? Cora, yes, please.
Yeah, so talking about financial inclusion and data inclusion, okay, so where do you see the bridge between Angkas and Union Bank?
Oh, the bridge between Angkas and Union Bank, wow. What? Ladies first?
The bridge to be wide enough to accommodate the motorcycle.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think there are a lot of new technologies out there, and a lot of banks like Union Bank that's been making inroads to increase financial inclusion. This is something that we're working together on. And that also includes inclusive mobility, to let people be able to choose how they want to get around and in a manner that is affordable and not so frustrating. So I think that's where we're focused on right now. But in terms of financial inclusion, we are also looking at partnerships with financial institutions such as Union Bank to see how we can bring more responsibility and banking mentality to our bikers, right? Because our bikers do make very good money. On average, a Manila biker that works about 8 to 10 hours makes about 1,500 pesos a day. And unfortunately, a lot of that money is going into like iPhones, they're upgrading their bikes, but not really into savings and long-term planning or putting it to a second business. Is that something that Angkas is working on to look at providing second business opportunities to the wives, to the families, so that that money can be invested to improve the life, not just like the daily consumption, but to improve their lives on a more long-term basis, right? I think that's where something also with Union Bank that can come into play.
Yeah, so to be more specific, there are areas in banking that can extend to Angkas, like motorcycle lending. That's one I think that they're trying to explore. Second, also Union Bank is one of Union Bank's key advocacy is the development of the MSME and the SME market. And one of the biggest problems in the Philippines right now is the last mile delivery. So I don't know if it's in Angkas's strategic plan, but if they could connect people, they can connect movable asset to people also. So they can connect business to business. And that's an infrastructure problem we have in the Philippines. And if they're into that, along that path, Union Bank's developing logistics systems, and you know this also, supply chain systems. If after the system has been developed, Angkas becomes the last mile, that's a perfect bridge between Angkas and Union Bank.
How about payment system?
Yes, sir. We're also developing payment systems.
Well, I think you can have the telephone as a proxy for a debit card.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. You can have the telephone as a proxy for a debit card. In fact, if you have a sort of a card, and you have a QR, if you go to Angkas, the technology is easy, that's just algorithm. And if you can have that and pay, if you visit Hong Kong and Singapore, not too far from us, they have what they call as a universal card. Pwedeng gamitin sa train, pwedeng gamitin sa grocery, you can use it in the trucks, or the buses, etc. So it is a payment system. Can you imagine what a lucrative business it would be if a bank like yours, which is the most advanced and I guess has the most potential, to be able to issue cards and load like a telephone?
Yeah, Sir Don, the word for that in our fintech universe is interoperability, right? So that's the one thing that drives us all. I know that according to Christian doctrines, we're supposed to only have one marriage, at least in your lifetime, one at a time, right? Si Sir Manabat lang yung tumatawa sa jokes ko. Yung iba, sila Mr. Drilon hindi tumatawa. The point is, in the case of fintech, banks, and technology companies working together, it's important that we have one language so that we can work together more closely. I like what Cora said, which is data inclusion. It's basically, do you know that Angkas has 3 million downloads, which is probably more than what an average bank would have in terms of deposits, right? So if we can find a way to interoperate between the two of us, it's not just Union Bank and Angkas. It should be with your businesses that you represent with other fintechs and other banks. That's what this convergence of technology represents. Because the only two things that will make money in this era is the movement of people and the movement of money, and the third is the movement of ideas. And you have them here on stage.
On QR code, to be specific, we've already signed up to BSP Governor's call to make QR codes adoption pervasive. So we'll make announcements in the next coming weeks, not to steal the thunder from our marketing people, but you'll hear a lot from us on QR code. That's going to be our new battle cry. Yeah.
Okay, before our time is low. Imagine that is 50 minutes. Any questions from table 2 before we wrap up? Okay, table 4.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ali Silagan, motorcycle editor of Top Gear Philippines. here. Yes, I have this question for Miss Angeline. You mentioned a while ago that there are still a lot of habal-habal riders who are still hesitant to, get into the uphiling motorcycle company like Angkas. Can you cite the major reasons why they're still hesitant? You said that it's very lucrative to be in Angkas, but still, why are they not getting into it right now? Thank you.
Hi, thanks, Aris. So I think there are many reasons as to why. First and foremost, I think there's a lot of resistance to change. Right? I think that's something that we faced even when we first started this business, which was the resistance to change. Right? So what we were doing was not new, but there was a resistance to change because it's unknown, and that's something we've slowly overcome in terms of the customer front, bikers front, business people, and now also some of the governments, right? And I think this fear is what's holding people back, and what we're trying to do is to help them bridge that gap, right? To understand that it's learning a new skill, because now we do require a lot of training and testing, right? Unfortunately, not everyone's able to pass that, which is why we make sure that training is absolutely free for everyone, so that they can come back and take the tests or the training again and again. So I mean, to give you an example, there are people who fail 7 times before they become an actual biker with Angkas, and that takes a lot of time and effort from their part and our part. But we're very, very happy to see them persevere and finally join the platform, because the Angkas Bakara community is very tight, and we're also able to give a voice to bikers who previously didn't have that, and a sense of belonging. So I think for some of the other reasons could be also they don't have the ability to upgrade their bikes, because we have strict requirements on the types of bikes and the age of the bikes, and they need to be inspected before they're able to join. So I mean, this is why partnerships with banks such as Union Bank to provide affordable motorcycle loans, right? So we know it can be 20-30% interest rates per annum for bikes, and that's something that we're hoping to bring down with partnerships with banks as well as financial institutions. And lastly, I guess it's a self-confidence or a belief that they're able to do it, because it's not easy. And we're hoping that as more and more people are able to pass and join Angkas, and more of their peers are able to give the word of mouth that, hey, actually it's very different, it's something that I can do and you can do as well, and that with that help they're able to change that mindset. So it's I think it just takes time, and for people to see the success of other people. Yeah. Thank you.
So at the end of President Fred, any last words on risk and innovation? Please, sir. Any last views on risk and
well,
innovation?
we can talk about innovation per se, but to have innovation, people should be taking risk. And I found out when I was running a university that the university is not necessarily a fertile ground for innovation, because the battle cry university is always excellence. We should always be getting high grades, passing all subjects, and there is no, the failure is failure. It's not viewed as the initial step to success. So that's why you notice the big entrepreneurs, the names that are very popular these days, in the tech field, they're all college dropouts, No, this was just my observation. Well, I set up a few technology incubator facilities on the big campuses of UP, Diliman, Los Baños, Manila, Mindanao, in Davao. Okay, of course, there are people coming in, but I notice most of the locators are not students, of the university, but entrepreneurs, techno-entrepreneurs from outside looking for a space. So, I mean, among the students themselves, as we always say, in the Philippines, we looked at education as a way for one to prepare for a job, not a way to prepare for setting up a business. I think that we need a culture change also in our universities, if we want to produce more entrepreneurs. And there should be not penalty for failing, but more encouragement, so that failure becomes just a stage before true success.
If I may, in closing, what is incalculable and unacceptable is the risk of not doing anything. So that's it.
Okay, unfortunately, time has run out with us. Once again, thank you, President Fred, for your time. Angeline, thank you for the insights on Angkas, on the rules, regulations, the training that we're doing. And of course, Henry, thank you for this quick and brief story of how Union Bank has transformed itself from a old institution to a hip legacy institution to a modern banking institution. And thank you more for
Please join ICD.
joining ICD.
Please join ICD.
Okay, round of applause, please. Thank you.
Artificial intelligence, making AI and robots that enhance human lives. So this also means increasing the amount of dialogue and engagement that we have about the consequences of these robots. How can they be used? And what are the effects on us? Artificial intelligence, robotics, and more generally automation have increased the abundance of our civilization. They bring a lot of efficiencies to manufacturing. They bring utility to the lives of people. And of course, they increase wealth. So one of the things that we have to look at is how our civilization can manage that wealth. How can we handle it? There can potentially be the accumulation of wealth in the hand of the hyper-wealthy. And yet that could potentially destabilize the entirety of the economy if people don't also enjoy the abundance. And so in the United States, we, over the last few years, we've particularly seen this sort of effect. So I think that we have to not just think about how to humanize the machines, but how do we humanize our civilization? How do we make the application and development of these kinds of machines for the betterment of people? The machines that I'm making are particularly human-like. And this is done for two reasons. One, it's done as a new kind of art form, a kind of figurative and animated art that uses the media of robotics and artificial intelligence. The other objective is to create a platform for the pursuit of true living machines. There's no machine in the world that's alive. We do have bio-inspired engineering. We have bio-inspired technologies in our Sophia robot, in the skin materials, in the mechanics of the actuation of the facial expressions, the mechanics of the arms, and in the software algorithms. That said, Sophia is not alive, and no machine on the planet is fully alive. But it is a very exciting and promising line of research to pursue machines that are alive, to ask the questions, what would it take for a machine to be alive? For a machine to be caring? For machines to be of, in the shorter term, just simply of greater utility? How do we make algorithms that are more useful for people? How do we add value? So we have these two aspects of Sophia, Sophia as an art form and Sophia as a platform, as a science research platform. My interest is how these things come together. So the kinds of robots that I'm developing take the techniques of the world of the arts and the intentions and creativity of the arts and apply these techniques to make the AI interface more engaging, to inspire people to interact with the AI in ways that they wouldn't if the simulation of life wasn't present. This is a powerful combination where the whole is greater than the mere sum of the parts. So I believe that artificial intelligence and robots without design and arts practice are insufficient, especially for interacting with humans. And by creatively applying these principles, we can diversify the ways that AI can be used, the applications, the real world applications in education, in medical therapy applications like autism treatment, in retail and customer service, and the list goes on. So we have barely scratched the surface of potential for what AI and robots could be in our lives. And the way that we open up the bounty of additional benefits is through creative exploration, by braving the world of the unknown. And having a background in arts myself, with an undergraduate degree in film animation, and being a professional sculptor as well as a robotics designer, at Disney Imagineering, before I started working on my PhD, I know the power of art. I know the power of these techniques. And if you look at a lot of the other great media, from computer-generated imagery for medical simulation to video games to cinema, it's that fusion of arts and technology that make it culturally relevant. Likewise, if we look at artificial intelligence and robotics, we see it bumping against design practice with the voice agents of Alexa and Cortana and Siri. Those agents, in some regards, are as much art as they are science, but the characters aren't fully developed as characters. So the medium is not pushed to its full opportunity, and the user engagement is accordingly limited. So developing the interactive fiction and the artistry of these robots is just as important as pushing the boundaries of the technology. And I see that this combination also then serves as a very powerful science platform, where we move past the questions of creating the illusion of life to creating true artificial life, artificial consciousness. What is it? What's creativity mean? These are questions now. There are not satisfactory answers to these questions. And having tools that can facilitate the investigation of these questions then allows us, these are thought tools as much as they are physical tools and software tools.
Yes.
So combining science fiction with true scientific inquiry, I believe, will yield answers to these questions in the coming years. That's why it's very important for me to have humanized robots that are human-like, as platforms for creativity and for science, for the development of business, not just inside my company, Hanson Robotics, but also for next generation companies, for existing companies that are out there that need to address vertical markets, and the companies that have not been founded yet, but that some inspired student will found. Some children in the world today will establish the next billion-dollar companies. These billion-dollar companies will come from dreams. They will come from the efforts of those children to define what our future is going to be. I want to put out robots that inspire them, that inspire the kids, that serve as a platform for them to learn about artificial intelligence and then use that platform to develop their own careers, whether it's in science, art, or commerce.
Yes. Dr. Hanson, can I ask two questions? What is the difference between a robot and a humanoid? And second, Elon Musk said that AI is possibly the biggest threat to humanity. What is your comment to that?
Well, so a robot generally, from an engineering perspective, refers to a machine that has sensors, some kind of decision making, usually through digital processing, and then some motorized output. The term robot was coined by a science fiction writer, a playwright named Carl Chapek, who used it based on the Czech word for labor or laborer, robota. So the origin of the word was to create a lifelike machine that could perform labor. That was what Carl Chapek intended. So you have two definitions. One is the original definition, and the other is the engineering definition. So robots, from the engineering perspective, don't need a human-like form in any way whatsoever. So a self-driving car can be a robot. You can have the Mars rover, Curiosity, that is a robot. A humanoid means human-like form. Human-like is what humanoid means. So not all robots need to be humanoid. But here's the thing. I think that if we extend the engineering definition, your printer that you will all use to print out your articles, that is a robot. It's got sensors, it's got decision making, it's got motorized output. It's a robot, but we don't think of it as a robot. It's not a robot. The cell phone that you might be holding in your hands, they've got sensors, they've got processing, and they've got little motors. The speaker is a motor, the buzzer in it is a motor. So it's a robot, but it's not a robot. We know it's not a robot. Why? Because it doesn't have the form of a life, right? In science fiction, again, the word robot was coined by a playwright. The term robotics was coined by a science fiction writer, Isaac Asimov. He named this robotics where there was a field, where there was a discipline. And there was no engineering discipline when he called them, when they were called robots, and the field was called robotics. And in those science fiction stories, what was interesting was the machines seemed to come alive. They were alive, living machines. So for me, the profound implication is that we might have living machines, that we might be able to create these machines with a kind of life. And so I think the apex of intelligent life, of consciousness and creativity, the best example that we know of in the universe is the human mind. Right now, that's the only proven being that can come up with speech and do these kinds of inventions. And so when the field of artificial intelligence was established, it was established as an engineering and science discipline in the pursuit of achieving machines with human-level capabilities. Now, artificial intelligence is different from that, and we often hear about artificial general intelligence being non-human-like. That is a research question. There is no AGI, or artificial general intelligence, yet. But artificial intelligence often uses very inhuman-like ways of solving problems. And robots have usually non-human-like forms. So the goal of creating a machine that is human-like is actually now, fairly unusual in fields of artificial intelligence and robotics. I want to make machines that can understand us and that we can understand. I want to use human as an exemplar of these abilities of intelligence, consciousness, creativity, and compassion. So making machines that can do these things is, in my estimation, not necessarily the ultimate goal, but a big start. Emulating humans is a big start towards achieving these goals. Now, if we do understand what it is to be human in this way, through these kinds of inquiries into the science and engineering of humanoid robots, that's a special case of intelligence. Octopus intelligence is also very capable, but it's not human-like, right? So we know that there may be general laws of general intelligence versus special laws that would categorize, be applicable to human intelligence or other kinds of intelligence. So the pursuit of general laws of intelligence, creativity, and compassion should follow the general laws. So in other words, we might be able to exceed human-level intelligence, exceed human-level creativity. My thought is that if we create those machines, then we also need them to have compassion for us, to care about us, to have ethics, but they shouldn't just be limited by the ethics that we've had in the past. We should also have ethical capacities that exceed our abilities, that also bring out the best in humans. So we need these machines to really care about us and have a relationship with us. And we also need to be able to trust them. They need to earn our trust. We need to build them in a way where we can trust them, and we do, so that we work in harmony. So Elon Musk, with these concerns that the machines could be very dangerous, That is under the premise that these machines may not care about it, that they may not understand their consequences. They may not lead toward a world that is moving with progress towards the benefit of life and humanity. I worry about these things as well. And I think that this is the reason we need to pursue the super compassionate capabilities in these machines, the super caring capabilities. We don't have the ability to build these kinds of machines yet, but we need to ask these questions and we need to step in that direction. We need to say, how can we make it go right, not just how can it go wrong? I mean, we need both one to win. We just say, it's going to go right and we're going to aim for that, but we never consider what can go wrong. We haven't protected ourselves adequately. So I think that Elon Musk's worry is quite legitimate. That doesn't mean that that's the only possible outcome. We need to aim to build robots that make the world a better place. And in the process, we need to ask, how can we be better? How can we do better as well? How can we make these machines that enhance the best in humans along the way?
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Hanson, and thank you so much for gracing us with your virtual presence. It's been a great 10 minutes. And what you said about looking at it on the positive side of the spectrum is really very relevant. And it gets us very excited about the conference next year. So we hope to see you then, and we wish you all the best, and yes, and we also look forward to seeing Sophia.
Well, thank you very much, and I can't wait to come visit you. I have so many exciting things to show you. We've had a really good year for research and development, and some of the things that we will be showing at this time have never been seen by the world. So
all right.
So I really look forward to visiting with you guys.
That's so exciting. Thank you so much again, Dr. Hanson. We'll see you in March. Bye.
I prepared a short statement. As a startup, many of the founders focus on pretty much one thing, is developing their product. And rightly so. And as they move on to the next stage of their business, a lot of these startup entrepreneurs, they focus on the growth of the business. Admittedly, many of us only think about corporate governance right before the IPO, which is a very, very painful process. And I think this needs to change. In Angkas, we actually have a very, very special place for corporate governance, transparency, in our operations. It was only because of what we did on the compliance side, in making sure that all of our bikers and our operations and our service adhere to the strictest standards of safety, that we were able to be given the chance by government to start and operate. And because of this, Angkas is now helping form regulations and effect policies, and making motorcycle taxis a reality. So I'm here today as an advocate of corporate governance, and I hope that this ideal, and I wish that a lot of the startups and entrepreneurs, we share this ideal to them. I hope that they see the value in transparency and corporate governance early on, in the very, very early stages of their business. And I think this is a fantastic move for ICD to actually appeal to a lot of the new startups as well, because these startups are the big corporations of the future. And we need to start right, and we need to start good. And we are in full support of what ICD is trying to do and the corporate governance conference in 2020. Thank you very much, guys. Have a good day.